Storyboard, I'm Shibani Gharat. At the World Audio, Visual and Entertainment Summit, that is WAVES, one of the most compelling conversations came from a global voice shaping the future of entertainment. Charles Rivkin, Chairman and CEO of Motion Picture Association. In this insightful dialogue, Rivkin reflected on the growing significance of platforms like WAVES in fostering industry collaboration and innovation and global storytelling. He underscored how events like these not only spotlight emerging markets but also serve as a bridge for policy, production and creative partnerships worldwide. India's rapid rise as a digital content powerhouse was a key focus. Rivkin shared candid thoughts on the vast opportunities the Indian market presents, from its vibrant storytelling traditions to its expanding infrastructure. He highlighted that Motion Picture Association's ongoing collaborations in India, partnerships that support industry growth, build capacity and help strengthen legal frameworks around content protection and more. Listen into this chat. On the sidelines of WAVES 2025, I'm catching up with Charles Rivkin, Chairman and CEO of Motion Pictures Association. Charlie, welcome to CNBC TV 18.
Thank you. It's great to be here. It's great to be here at WAVES. Fantastic.
So tell us, you've been here for the past 2 days. What have been your key takeaways from this WAVES summit?
Well, first of all, it's a huge success. There's just no debate about it. Prime Minister Modi's vision of the orange economy is brilliant and visionary because India has an incredible history of storytelling, and he's going to take it to the next level. And I'm proud that the Motion Picture Association studios, we represent the 7 largest studios in the world, they're here. If you walk the floor, you'll see these extraordinary booths because we're here to invest in India for the long term.
Yeah, and you're here to invest in India, is what you said, Charlie. But having said that, how are you partnering, with this, history of storytelling that India has? How are you partnering with India as a country, as Motion Pictures Association?
It's funny. I was just thinking about this. You mentioned the history of storytelling. India's 1913 had a hit film. It existed. The movies came out of India at the same time as America. It was at the birth of our industry. We were there together. And it's a bond that we've shared for all those years. I was at the Academy Awards 2 years ago, where people were dancing in the aisles to Natu Natu when RRR won. Indian culture and soft power is already taking over, but this deal, this investment, is going to allow us to help accelerate that. So you ask, how could that happen? It's partnerships. The future of my industry is local programming. And we invest locally because good stories, well told, transcend borders. And if India creates the conditions that allow for storytelling, anything's possible. Yeah, so India's influence growing as a soft power, courtesy, of course, the Indian entertainment industry. You gave a great example when you spoke about, people dancing to Natu Natu on the sidelines of the Academy Awards. It was infectious. It was incredible.
But having said that, how can we, of course, local storytelling is one aspect of it. Apart from that, what else can we do as a country to grow its influence in this soft power, in this direction?
Right. Well, let me start by, once again, talking about local storytelling, and then I'll take it beyond. An interesting example of local storytelling in another country, Korea, is a show called Squid Game, which many of your viewers have seen. Squid Game was one of my studios, Netflix, invested in the local Korean programming, local language, local actors, 100% about cultural history. The show talked about childhood games that they played and touched on social issues of the day. And it was made for Korea, but because it was so good, it took over the world. And I think there's potential with our streaming services when we invest locally and tell stories about Indian culture for them to have that same global impact. So what more can be done was your question. A lot. I mean, right now you have what's necessary for investment already in the talent, in the location, in the facilities. When I think about Film City, I was with the Chief Minister today, and the Film City investment is pretty extraordinary. I met with Minister Vaishnav yesterday about IITC and the investment there. But I think additionally, having an incentive structure that not only competes locally, but around the world would be enormously valuable. And that's something I've been talking to the ministers about.
it's interesting that you mentioned Squid Games, and it's not just Squid Games, but also Korean romance has been extremely popular. Korean thriller shows have been very well received across audiences, and Korea has its own language, its own cultural nuances, pretty much like this country, our country, where, you know, different states have their own cultural stories and, you know, history to it, and, you know, like traditional storytelling that has been going on for ages. So what are some of the learnings from Korea as an industry that probably our country can apply and utilize to create stories and content that cuts across borders?
I think the secret and the answer to your question about Squid Game is authenticity. And authenticity, audiences can understand that, they see it, and it resonates with them. And you saw that in that show, but in many other shows coming out of Korea. And I think that the exportability of India's long history of storytelling has so much future potential, especially with the commitment. I mean, look at this place, right? I mean, the whole world is here. My 7 studios of the Motion Picture Association are all represented in a major way, and we intend to continue because this market is very exciting for us.
One is authenticity, and second thing that cuts across languages and cultures is, of course, sports. So how do you look at sports contribution, Indian sporting events contribution to the entire media and entertainment industry? And we are speaking also, incidentally, on the sidelines of the ongoing IPL, the biggest, you know, like platform, the biggest event for India.
I was talking to Uday Shankar yesterday and was learning about how a huge percentage of the world's viewers for IPL are here in India. And sports is entertainment. Sports is driving programming. All of the Motion Picture Association studios are involved in various ways with sports programming and will continue to be so. It's drama, it's excitement, it's unscripted, and it's real and it's live. So sports programming is a huge part of our future.
And this industry is also, you know, changing and evolving at such a fast pace. What are some of the things that will, you know, drive, and what direction is it headed from here going forward?
I think we're about to see, with the rise of the streaming services, the democratization of programming in a way that that what used to be local is now going to be global. And I think that's going to be an increasing evolution. I lived in France when I was young. I could never see French films in America or French television because this didn't exist. And now we're watching programming on all of our streaming services from all nations around the world, and they're all finding niches, and that's never been done before, and we're just beginning that process.
As MPA, how do you look at the impact of AI on this industry?
I think AI is transformational for almost every industry on the planet, including our own. And what's interesting about AI is that we've been using AI for many years. In fact, most recently, I don't know if you had a chance to see the most recent Indiana Jones movie starring Harrison Ford, but for the first 30 minutes of the film, Harrison Ford, was 30 years younger, because AI and technology allowed the filmmakers to digitally remove his head from his body, map onto his face the younger images of him from previous Indiana Jones 30 years ago and Star Wars 30 years ago, and return it to his body, and it's him, his voice, his actions, but he genuinely is 30 years younger. That's just one example. There's so many ways that the technology will aid in storytelling. Our industry is artist-driven, not technology-driven, but technology is a tool to make stories even more interesting. It'll impact special effects. It'll impact the way we experience things. Eventually, there could be immersion as part of our storytelling. So we're excited about AI. We're working carefully with it. But the key for us is to make sure that AI doesn't somehow or other stop us from owning our copyrights and from telling our stories the way they deserve to be told with complete freedom.
So 2 key things that you said, our industry is artist driven, and the second most important thing that you said is you're looking at it as an enabler. So how do you mitigate, you know, the risk when it comes to insecurities and concerns around jobs when it comes to AI that, you know, that is brought upon
I mean, look,
by the coming in of AI upon this industry?
I hear you. We have been, I mentioned earlier, an example of AI, but we've been using it for crowdsourcing, for, you know, stadiums filled with people. There's already a ton of things people are seeing that involves AI that hasn't resulted in job loss. New technologies often do result in job loss, but this technology is going to result in job creation. And if there's going to be an entire industry sprung up about how AI-enhanced storytelling can change the way stories are told. So it is artist-driven, it's going to create jobs, but we have to be careful that it has guardrails, that it's carefully monitored and carefully regulated. Otherwise, it would get out of control and could have harm for people.
Charlie, you spoke about authenticity and, culturally nuanced and locally nuanced storytelling is the future for, the media and entertainment industry. What else do we see going forward?
Well, a threat on the horizon, a threat that's actually right in front of us, involves digital piracy. And it's something that people don't think about that much, but it's an existential threat for our industry. If an amazing Indian film is made and stolen before it hits box office, it can reduce revenues at the box office by as much as 20%. Sure. And it's not just the movie that suffers, it's all the people that work in theaters, all the consumers. And by the way, when the bad guys that control the illegal trade of stolen films infiltrate your computer if you've gone to their sites, there's a huge risk to consumers because the only reason illegal sites exist is so that they can steal identities, so they can harm consumer preferences. So how do we fight it? Well, what we've done is we built an organization we call ACE, the Alliance for Creativity and Entertainment. It involves 60 companies right now throughout the world, all partnering with law enforcement. Law enforcement, because the people that are stealing movies are not college kids exchanging files in their dorm room. This is organized crime. This is equivalent of the mafia. They're involved with child pornography, with illegal drugs, with all the ills of society. And so local law enforcement wants to work with us. When we shut down those sites, we actually make society better. But more importantly, people don't realize it. They don't realize the impact of going to one of these sites that's going to harm them, and that it's actually going to harm the industry itself. So that in this digital age, piracy threat becomes more acute.
Acute, yeah.
Because you can literally stream rip, as I was saying before, so quickly that you need to be super careful.
And piracy also has been a huge concern in a country like India. Tell us, how can India as a country address this issue?
Well, what's fascinating about piracy is it's not local. So the 5 largest English language piracy sites in the world are actually in Vietnam because the pirates go where they can get away with the crime. And so it requires a global response. India being part of that global response will be key. It'll not only protect Indian films, it'll protect global films in the entire industry. So we're working to gain more partners in India. I was speaking with Reliance and other companies here who might be able to join the coalition. It's very important for the creative future of India's industry and for our industry at large.
Great. Thank you so much, Charlie. Thanks for joining us today and thanks for sharing your insights and your key takeaways from Waves.
Thanks for inviting me here. I can't wait till next year.
It is time for a short break. On the other side, we are joined in by Harshil Mathur, CEO and co-founder of Razorpay, along with Apurv Sethi, Senior Vice President of Marketing at Razorpay, speaking about their interesting initiative backing India's boldest, which shines spotlight on startup founders around the IPL.